Nvidia thinks you're stupid. I'm not even joking. Like, they absolutely think you're dumb. And they think I'm dumb. And maybe I actually am, because I bought a whole bunch of the video cards this year. Maybe I'm the dumb one. It's not just me. It's a bunch of you too. And here's the reason why. I get it. Nvidia has done a great job to become really the monster, the only real card to buy when you want high-end gaming at high performance. You definitely better bring a paycheck, an entire paycheck to pay for one, but you're probably gonna get it. And sometimes, sure, the drivers suck. And of course, you're gonna overpay, especially if you get them right off the beginning. But again, this is why some of us, we just gotta admit it, we're dumb. We're being stupid. And Nvidia is just cashing in on us. But what they're doing now has kind of pushed me over the edge. I'm over the moon pissed off about this. Let me explain exactly what's going on. For me, it started when Jensen walked on stage and said that the 5070 was going to be as performant as the 4090. We all know how that went. And we all know that that was just a big lie and one of many to come. Then they released the 5060 Ti later on with a 16 and 8 gigabyte variant with the same name. We know how that went. We know that actually the 5060 Ti with 16 gigs actually performs pretty well. I actually did a video building a computer with one. You should check that out. It's here on the channel. It's a good card, actually. Price is not great, but the fact that they had an 8 gig version of a Ti card is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely, in every conceivable way, ridiculous. And while you could argue whether the 5060 should have an 8 or a 16 gig, should certainly have at least a 12 gig version, you could almost give them a pass. You can definitely give them a pass on a 5050, although that should probably be a $200 card or $175 card. But once you get beyond that, can we just do what Intel does? I mean, Intel gives us more than 8 gigs on most of their cards, and they don't try to charge an arm and a leg. But again, that's only part of the problem. Really, you and I are the problem. We buy the cards, and it makes Nvidia feel even more powerful and makes them feel like they could take advantage of us even more. And well, they're just about to do it again. And no, I'm not talking about the 5050. Again, that's probably not a card that many of you are going to buy. There's this series called the Super series of cards that they routinely come out with. And I actually bought one, the RTX 4070 Super, like a year or so ago. And I bought it because at the time I wanted to upgrade my video card. And I didn't want a 4070. The reviews were like that it's okay for the price. The performance was eh. But when the 4070 Super came out at about the same price, but the performance was better, all right, I'm in. Count me in. Little did I know I would get suckered on the wrong side of that about a year or so later, which is now. I've pretty much filled up my house with RTX 50 series of cards. My gaming machine has a 5090. You can watch that video here on the channel. This computer, my office computer, has a RTX 5080. You can watch that video here on this channel where I had one of the worst experiences of any product I've ever purchased ever. You definitely have to watch that. And the 5060 Ti, well, it was not a bad experience, but that video is here as well. So I have all those cards here. And while I don't like the pricing of really almost any of them, I had accepted what was being offered for what I was getting. Little did I know that for one of my cards, it might actually be seeing an upgrade maybe sooner rather than I expected. Plus, something that I actually thought of when I bought it that I was kind of not happy with, the VRAM. VRAM is the big thing everyone's talking about right now. Of course, 8 gig not being enough, and even 12 kind of being suspect. So the 16 gig on my 5080 is enough, and I probably won't ever go over it, but it's not like a lot. And it's the one thing I've always thought about. I spent $1,000 on this card. 16 just seems like the minimum, the absolute minimum. And for those of you that bought the 5070, like 12? Huh? Well, Nvidia comes to the rescue. They create a problem and then fix it with the next series of cards, just like they did with the 40 series. They created a series of cards that performed and then up to performance in the very next version. They're doing it again. They're literally doing it again. For example, the RTX 5070 Super that is rumored to come out is going to have more CUDA cores, which will, of course, give it more performance. And then they're taking the 12 gigs of RAM and upping it to 18 gigs, which is actually acceptable. It's an actual acceptable amount of RAM for a card that's priced like that. And maybe we're suckers for believing the 5070, the 5080, 5090 were never going to be touched. But when you see that happen, and when the 5080, the one that I have now with 16 gigs of GDDR7, which I didn't think it was enough to begin with for the as expensive as it is, going up to 24, which is totally respectable and I'm totally okay with, it's a smack in the face. It really genuinely is. Now, these might be priced more than the current 50 series of cards, which would almost make it make sense. Please make it make sense. But even then, I'm still not happy about the one thing that I was thinking, the 5080 is good, but it doesn't have enough VRAM. And then just months later, it might come out with enough VRAM. How am I ever supposed to trust anything that Nvidia does again? I won't. I just won't. This also reminds me back in the iPhone era where you would get like an iPhone 4, then the 4S would come out like a year later. You're like, damn. But at least with iPhones, you know, every single year a new iPhone's coming out. With these, it could be literally months later. Thanks, Nvidia. And you have to remember, gaming video cards are just a side quest to Nvidia. They make like 90% of their money with AI. We're just a joke to them. We're a rounding error on how much money that Nvidia makes on video cards. I'm not saying it's not a lot of money, but when you look at how much money they bring in with AI, it's nothing. This is nothing. So what's the solution? Well, there's only two things, and I bet you neither one's going to happen. Number one, AMD finally says, you know what? We're going full bore. We're not only going to just take on the low end and the medium end, we're going to take on the high end. They did that once before. Didn't work out so great for them, but I think at this point, with as much money as Nvidia's charging for these things, it might actually work now. We're all looking for an alternative to Nvidia, even though it might not look like it in the sales charts. I think with things like this, when you come out with a super series, or at the very least, even it gets rumored so soon after a launch of a video card, it's such a bad look. It just looks terrible because it just tells people to not buy your first revision of any card, which maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's the takeaway from this is just don't ever buy the first series of cards. And that gets me to the second solution, which will definitely never happen. We got to stop buying their video cards. The only way any of this ever gets fixed is if we stop buying video cards from Nvidia. Just stop it. Let's just not do that anymore. Can we stop this? No, we can't. Unfortunately, we can't. Because even if we wanted to, we know that the best experience comes with Nvidia. We would love for that not to be the case, but they got us locked up. So now what? Well, I'd love to hear if there's a third option. And if there is, leave me a comment below and let's talk about it. Because at this point, I'm real upset about it. I can't believe I have a 5080 over here and it's going to have less VRAM than a 5080 Super that might be coming out this year. I just bought the damn thing. This motherfucker, I hate this son of a